Today I want to talk about music copyright, specifically whether we should register our music with the US Copyright Office. Before we get into the video, I want to tell you about Supertape. Supertape is a website builder specifically for bands and musicians that automatically keeps your music, your merch, your videos, and your tour dates up to date. It's fast, affordable, and a huge upgrade to your boring link in bio. Check us out at supertape.com. All right, let's get back into it. So I'm part of several online musician and composer discussion groups. And in one of them, this question about copyright came up. Do you need to pay for a copyright for every single song you write and put out for public view? I felt like I knew the answer, and then as I was reading through the comments, I became less sure, and then I realized I have no idea. I've been writing, recording, producing, performing and releasing music for over 30 years. This is with bands and solo projects and composing for film and television. And I have to admit, I have never registered a song with the US Copyright Office. I've always looked at registering my music the same way I look at car rental insurance. I'll take my chances. Besides, who's gonna steal my music? And I know registering my work is optional, and it costs money and takes time, so I choose not to do it. But after reading through multiple pages of comments in forums, subreddits, and even the US Copyright Office's website, I was even more confused. The advice given was inconsistent or just wrong, like suggesting that your performing rights organization could handle copyright, which is not true, or that mailing your music to yourself and not opening it is a workaround, which is also not true. Most importantly, I didn't find any compelling arguments to register. Instead, the advice was all over the place, and people get surprisingly worked up over this topic. I wanted to get to the bottom of this, so I reached out to my friend Derek Julio. Derek is a musician with years of experience playing, recording, and touring, and he's also a practicing music attorney. And I went into our conversation thinking I would feel just fine about not registering my music, but I was wrong. Before I dive into why, I need to cover a few things first. Copyright is super complicated, and I'm not an attorney. And even though I interviewed an attorney, you should take all of this as opinion. If you have legal questions, you should hire an attorney. And although I'm focusing on copyright registration with the United States Copyright Office for artists outside of the US, this still applies to you. And I'll get to that a little bit later on in the video. To get us started, I want to do a quick overview of copyright protection because that will help us understand the registration part. In the US and many other countries, copyright protection for creative work, like a song, is automatic upon fixation in a tangible medium of expression. That's the legal definition in the United States. This means that once it's recorded in some physical medium, like an audio file or a piece of paper, it's protected under copyright law. Although your work is protected automatically upon creation, the US offers an optional registration with the US Copyright Office. And this process involves submitting an application, a copy of the work, and a processing fee. Once approved, your work is added to the Library of Congress and is searchable in their database. This makes it clear who owns the work and makes it easier to give permission for others to use the work. This process, in legal terms, is known as establishing a chain of title. Under US copyright law, registration is optional, so why do it? Well, the US government offers significant benefits to incentivize artists to register. The first benefit is proof of ownership. When you register your music, you're presumed to be the owner. If someone else claims they own your work, they have to prove it and not you. Without registration, you have to prove you own your work, and that can be really hard to do. The second benefit is the right to sue in federal court. You can't file a copyright infringement lawsuit in federal court without registering your work. And federal courts are typically more efficient in handling these cases than state courts. The third benefit is damages. Copyright lawsuits are usually based on how much money you lost due to an infringement, which can be tough and costly, especially for independent artists. However, if your work is registered, you can claim statutory damages. These predetermined amounts set by law range from $750 to $150,000 per infringement, regardless of your actual financial loss. This can make it financially worthwhile to go to court. The fourth benefit is attorney's fees. If your work is registered and you win your case, you can get the other party to pay your attorney's fees, which can save you a lot of money. To get these benefits, you need to register your music within 3 months of its release or before infringement occurs. So it's best just to register your music as soon as it's published. In short, registering your music helps protect your rights, makes it easier to take legal action, and can provide financial compensation if someone infringes on your work. So why is this so important for smaller artists? I've always thought of copyright infringement as a big artist problem, but it turns out there are a lot of instances of smaller artists posting something on social media for it to be discovered by a larger artist who uses it without proper attribution or even claims it as their own. In fact, Derek is currently assisting an artist who's in this situation. As a smaller artist, you're basically at a loss. Not only will the proof of ownership be on you, but you also have to prove your losses, which can be next to impossible to do. Non-US artists should definitely consider registering their music in the US. Not only is it the world's largest music market, but it's where most copyright lawsuits occur. And after registration, non-US artists get the same benefits that I mentioned earlier, with some exceptions based on country, so make sure you do your homework. Something that I've been reluctant to embrace is recognizing that making music professionally requires professional expenses, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Derek reminded me that running my music as a business means that I need to invest in things that will protect my business and my assets, namely my music. And that doing this includes paying fees and other administrative tasks that I'd rather not do, but I'm slowly coming around to it. And after this conversation, I feel much better about registering my work. So how do we register our work? One option is to do it directly through the US Copyright Office, and I'll put a link in the notes. Keep in mind this is a government entity, and the forms and procedures can be pretty tedious. Although their website does offer help documents and FAQs, plan on spending a good amount of time completing your application. And of course, there's the fees. As of today, they range from $65 to $85 depending on whether you're registering a single or an album. Alternatively, you can opt for a service like Cosign to handle the registration process for you. And while they charge a small fee on top of the federal filing fees I mentioned earlier, they can significantly streamline the process for you. Sadly, the music industry is notorious for taking advantage of and profiting off of smaller, less informed artists. I feel like this small step can take some of the power back. I hope you found this information helpful. I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and start registering my work. Big thanks to Derek for generously sharing this information with me in a way that I can understand, and I really hope to sit down with him again to tackle some other legal topics. I'm curious to know if you currently register your work or your thoughts on this have changed, or if you have any personal experiences with copyright infringement. Let me know in the comments. Thanks.